Oh, yeah. Here comes the juke. Birdman Hamburg. Welcome. You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph. Hope everybody's doing good out there in TV land. But we got a good show ahead of us. But like we always do, got to send a little shout out to the sponsors. If you want to do a podcast like what you're watching, call the number on the bottom of the screen. If you want to do a photo shoot, call the number on the bottom of the screen. If you want to do a music video, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And if you want a jitterless, clean energy, no crash energy drink, go on Dubby.com, DUBBY.com. Use promo code JUKE for 20% off. Just added new hydration packs as well. If you're into that and not necessarily looking for the energy drink, but Dubby.com got all you need. Use promo code JUK. And make sure you go follow all of the socials. I am in the process of changing the Facebook page. So for now, it's the He Say, She Say channel. Like the He Say, She Say channel. Follow us at Juke Sports Show on Instagram. Make sure you go subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, but go on Juke Network. And then follow me at KYNGRALPH on TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, add an underscore for X or Twitter. And let's jump into it. So I made a prediction. I had the Liberty winning the series as a whole. Yesterday, they had game one. Stewie didn't necessarily have the best game. And so, should I reconsider my prediction? And just to go off a couple of stats from last night that are kind of, which brings up this question in the end. Nafisa Collier, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 blocks, 3 steals. Caleb McBride, 22 points, 4 assists. Courtney Williams, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And so I just feel like their big three outplayed New York Liberty's big three, with Stewie going 6 for 18 or 6 for 21, 18 points, 9 rebounds. Had a good game on the defensive side of the ball. Ionescu had 19, 5, 3, and 4. Jones had, I think, was the highest scorer on her team with like 22, Jonquel Jones. And so I think in the end, the Minnesota Lynx big three outplayed the New York Liberty's big three. And so with that, I just personally feel like they just showed up for game one ready to play. And I feel like they have a younger team. And Nafisa Collier is a monster if you haven't got a chance to really got it to be able to see her play. And for the people that's like, oh, my favorite player is not in the playoffs, so I'm not going to watch. If you genuinely like basketball, you got to pay attention. You got to watch this series. This is really high quality, high IQ, really good basketball. Stewie misses a free throw. Actually, Liberty are up 18 points to tell the whole story. Minnesota Lynx come back, take the lead. Stewie gets fouled with a couple seconds left on the game clock. Shoots 2 free throws, makes one to tie it, misses the second one. They go to overtime. Then Stewie has an opportunity to tie it again in overtime, misses a layup. And so I just feel like Stewie didn't have her best game, and the Minnesota Lynx big three had a hell of a game. Courtney Williams gets a 4-point play to take the lead. And like I said, between the three of them, 60 points. And so when you have that type of output from your best players, it's going to be hard to get a victory or to be able to eke out a victory when that's what you're up against, especially when Stewie goes 6 for 21. And I just don't expect her to have that type of game. Or I expect Sabrina to be able to pick it up, Jonquel to be able to pick it up. And I feel like Jonquel did what she was supposed to do, but I don't think Sabrina and Stewie had good games as a whole and as a unit. And so should I reconsider? I'm not going to. You know me, if I make a pick, I'm going to ride with it. I had a reason why I did, but don't be surprised. Minnesota won 3 out of their 4 matchups this year, and now it's 4 out of 5 so far. And so we're going to go into the Who You Got segment. We're going to start with college. My Ohio State Buckeyes going up against Oregon. Number 2 versus number 3. I hate that this is a game I'm most likely not going to be able to watch because I'm going to be at work. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. It's going to be a heck of a football game. In the end, I am going to go Ohio State. I feel like our defense is going to be able to put up enough fight, and we got enough offensive power to be able to put up enough points in the end. And ultimately, like I always say in these big games, whoever controls the clock and whoever is able to not turn the ball over, beat themselves in these games, is going to be who's going to be the victor. And so in the end, I'm riding with my Buckeyes, Ohio State over Oregon. Going next, the UNLV Rebels coming off of a overtime loss to Syracuse last week. Lost by 3 points. So I'm still going to rock with UNLV in this one. I don't feel like Utah State has enough to be able to do it, to be able to get the upset in the end, which ultimately it would be an upset because of how well UNLV is playing this year. Although they lost their quarterback, backup comes in, has a heck of a game. Don't necessarily have his stats off the top of my head, but I know that just going into it, he had a heck of a game for them to be able to put up that many points. And let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Player stats. Yeah, last week, 21 of 25, 227 through the air, 53 on the ground, 4 touchdowns in total. I feel like he did what he was supposed to do as far as a quarterback standpoint, and that offensive coordinator is doing his thing. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. And so I just feel like in the end, UNLV is going to be a little bit too much for Utah State. And so another big matchup, as there are a couple. I know Ole Miss is playing a big game against LSU, 9 versus 13, but I am going to talk about the Red River rivalry. Red River rivalry. Say that 5 times fast. But number 1, Texas. Number 18, OU. I'm not sure off the top of my head is Quinn Ewers going to end up playing. Let's look it up. But I think regardless of the matter, I feel like Arch Manning is more than capable of leading the way. Right, Ewers is expected to be back and start, so I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of him starting, although I felt like Arch Manning is more than capable of leading the way and being able to lead this team to, I feel like, just as good and just as far, maybe a little bit further. I feel like he's a little bit better than Quinn Ewers as far as his potential. And so I still feel like Texas is one of the 4 best teams in the league. So I just don't anticipate Oklahoma winning, but you never know in these rivalries, these types of games where you play each other every year, anybody can win. Doesn't always mean that the team that you would think is the hotter team would be the one that would go and get the victory. And so in the end, I am going to go Texas over Oklahoma, although this is a big game and one of the biggest rivalries right now. And so moving over, I feel like this one too, if you're a historian, a football nerd like myself, Raiders versus Steelers is always a big game. They have a bunch of big moments coming throughout history. And so I personally just feel like the Steelers defense is so good that I don't see the Raiders being able to sneak a victory in. And so I'm going to go Steelers. I feel like Justin Fields, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, but you never know. I'm going to go Steelers. I feel like Justin Fields, as long as he protects the football, doesn't have any crazy plays, I don't see the Raiders being able to do enough. They need to hurry up and trade Devontae Adams, as much as I don't want to see him go. But this is the type of game that I wouldn't be surprised for the Raiders to win. I've been saying it all year and for as long as I've been doing this pod. The Raiders will win a game that they're not supposed to win, and then the teams they're supposed to beat the hell out of, they blow those games to get blown out. So, but in the end, I'm going to put my bias to the side, and I got the Raiders losing to the Steelers this week. And then another staying in the AFC West, we got the Chargers versus the Broncos. Like I said at the beginning of the year, I just didn't understand hiring Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator when you have Justin Herbert. I understand that you don't necessarily have the wide receiver talent, but it just didn't make sense to me. Like, he's not a dual threat quarterback, so why would you hire Greg Roman in the end? And so I just don't see the Chargers beating the Broncos. The Broncos are playing better football right now. That defense is playing at a high level. Bo Nix is getting better week in and week out. I might have been wrong about Bo Nix in the end, but I am going to go Broncos over the Chargers. And then the Monday night game, Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. New York Jets just fired Robert Saleh, demote Nathaniel Hackett, and take away his play calling ability. And so do the Bills right the ship? And this one here is like, it can go either way because, like I said, it's a rivalry game. There's in division. They play each other every year, twice a year. Last year, even with Zach Wilson at the helm and Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles, Josh Allen throws 4 picks and they lose. So, but in the end, I do feel like as bad as Josh Allen played last week, I just don't see him playing that bad this week. And so, although this is definitely one of those games where I feel like the lack of wide receiver talent, being able to beat one-on-one coverage can be exploited in this game, I just feel like Josh Allen is good enough to get the victory. So in the end, I got Buffalo Bills beating the Jets on Monday night. As we move along, Jayden Daniels continues to be the talk of the town. Ultimately, he's playing hell of real good football. Got his team 4-1. There's a reason why I told y'all, I tried to tell y'all, he was going to be the best quarterback in this draft. And so, ultimately, should he be in the MVP conversations? And I believe yes. I think, one, being the number 2 pick in the draft, this is one of those things where the team wasn't good. And so I know you get new coaching, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, you get Quinn as the head coach now, Dan Quinn as the head coach now. Defense is playing really good. And I feel like this here is the combination that if you're going to go defensive coach, you got to have a really good offensive coordinator to be able to get the most out of your offense. And as much as you want to sit here and say Cliff Kingsbury is not a good coach, he's a hell of an offensive coordinator. And being able to have someone and have Jayden Daniels under the tutelage of a Cliff Kingsbury, what he's able to do with his legs as well as his arm, keeping his eyes down the field when he escapes the pocket. I seen a stat earlier where he's 12 for 15 when escaping the pocket on non-designed bootlegs. His ability to push the ball down the field and while staying under pressure at such a young, early part of his career is nothing short of phenomenal. Getting them to wins, leading them to wins. Now, the one thing that I want to see is, can he essentially what we questioned from Lamar last week? When you're down 2 touchdowns, 10 points, can you will your team and throw the ball to the point and move the ball down the field to the point where you can come back and have comeback victories? And those are questions that we had with Lamar, and I would like to see that from him. And I think in this game, he'll get the opportunity because Lamar Jackson is playing at a high level. So the Commanders play the Ravens. And in the end, I do believe the Ravens are just going to come out and be the better team. But if he can get a victory, he's definitely the front runner for the MVP. And I don't even really see it being close. Patrick Mahomes is struggling, which goes back to what I mentioned earlier in the week. Quarterbacks get too much credit. Like, yeah, they're 5-0, but that defense is top 2 defense. I think they're the number 2 ranked defense in a lot of different categories. So they're right behind the Steelers when it comes to what they're doing, to the point where Mahomes doesn't really have to put up that many points because the defense is holding teams to 2 touchdowns, 17 points. All he has to do is between him, Juju, they brought in Kareem Hunt. All he really has to do is put up 3 touchdowns between him and that offense. And Andy Reid's a hell of a offensive mind. So for me, if Jayden Daniels can get this victory and beat the Baltimore Ravens, he's the king of the DMV and also puts himself as the front runner of the MVP conversation. And so I brought it up earlier, mentioning Justin Fields and the Steelers, but this is where we start to see at this point in the season and at this point in the development, we didn't expect Justin Fields to be the starter for forever. Especially going into this year, we expected Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson gets hurt. Justin Fields comes in, has the confidence of the locker room. We keep Justin Fields. But last week, they suffered their first loss of the season. He didn't necessarily play well. So now we go into it. They're 4-1. What do you do at this point? And so should Justin Fields still be the starter? I feel like in this game, this is a perfect opportunity for him to put his stamp and let it be known, hey, this starting job is mine for the future. And so I believe he should. The Raiders have a pretty good defense. The defense starts to fall apart just for them simply being on the field for too long. But Christian Wilkins is out. They still got Max Crosby and Patrick Graham and what he's been able to do with that defense there, along with Antonio Pierce. They're playing really good football on the defensive end. So I think this is going to be a good test for him. But like I said, as long as he can not turn the ball over, push the ball down the field, and be able to move the ball in a way where he showed in the second half last week that he was able to do and build on that, I don't see a reason why Justin Fields isn't the starter going forward and shuts the door on that whole Russell Wilson conversation. And so the 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks last night, 36-24. And it leads you to the question, are the 49ers still a Super Bowl contender? And I think last night was a good win for them, specifically Brock Purdy and what he was able to do. I think and for good reason, questioned Brock Purdy and his ability to be able to lead them to the promised land without his super friends. Like, you lose Christian McCaffrey. He struggles without Christian McCaffrey in that backfield. And then Shanahan and his play calling, I think he gets a little bit too enamored with the big play, the trick play, that you got to stick to your roots. And I feel like he does a great job of plug and play with running backs. Mason comes in for Christian McCaffrey, looks good. I forget his name. Dorado comes in for Mason and 11 carries for 93 yards. And the one thing that I always say, and I say, you got to go and look at the film because the stats don't always tell the story. He really just had one big run where he was untouched for 70 yards. He slides, really could have been a touchdown, but for the sake, it leads you to where I think that, yes, they are. I do feel like they got some really good play from their young talent that in the end, they're going to have to be able to get thirds and fourth rounders and be able to produce with them once they get to the point where they have to pay Brock Purdy. And so I definitely feel like the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. That defense is going to play well. Shanahan is going to scheme it up to the point where he can plug and play with different players. The one thing is I would like to see is Kittle and Debo had good games, but Ayuk has yet to come on. I haven't really seen a game in which he was the guy that's supposed to be getting all this money. And so I don't know where these hiccups came from. But let's look up what's his stats this year. Yeah, so for the season, he has 23 receptions for 351 yards, and that's playing in 6 games at this point. So not a really good showing so far this year from Brandon Ayuk. I would like to see him a little bit more involved in the games. And so I do personally feel like the 49ers are going to be the 49ers when it comes to who you trust. If you were to sit here and go through every team of who do you trust to be able to be in that big game at the end of the year, it's hard to find a team more trustworthy than the 49ers. So in the end, I do still feel like the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender, although they haven't been playing their best football this year, injuries included. And so going off top, man, I got a vent first. So me and my lady we're trying to rent a house. This trash ass apartment complex that we live in right now. We get to the point now where we fill out the application. The property management of the house that we're trying to rent calls the apartment complex that we live in. We go through and I go walk down to the office. I give them the information, let them know, hey, I live in 2201. Me and my lady trying to rent this house. Can you call these people? They've been trying to reach you. You're not answering the phone. So she finally makes the call. I tell her 2201. There's an A side, there's a B side. She asks me A or B. I tell her I live in the complex that's the office is connected to. She's like, oh, that's A. Tell me why when she goes to give the information to the rental complex, the property manager, she tells them 2201B. When they look into it, they've missed payments, bounced checks, so on and so forth to the point where we get denied. And then it's like when you look into it, you gave them the wrong information, and now we lose out on a nice ass house that was 4 bedrooms, 1,800 in the rent, and it's on St. Rose where there's a bunch of different things that are around the area in which we want to be in. And it's just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, which goes to show, like, this is the reason why we want to leave this fucked up place in the first place. Like, this shit has been stressful, to say the least. I just wanted to vent. On to the next subject. So the Boozer twins commit to Duke. Carlos Boozer, their father, played for the Duke Blue Devils, I believe, from 99 to 02. Won a championship there as well. He has twins. I forget which one. One of them is like significantly better than the other, and he's supposed to be the truth. Looking at him like they acting like he the GOAT. But they go to Duke, and it just shows every year. Like, I just feel like at some point, Coach K did such a good job establishing the brand of Duke that they're just always going to get people that are going to want to go there. I feel like John Shire, since he's taken over, he was able to get Cooper Flagg to come in. Now he got the twins to come in. And I just feel like he's going to, year in and year out, be able to pump out NBA level talent. And I hate it. I hate Duke. I hate everything about it. Not a big fan of that blue, although the blue, you know what, F it. I'm not a big fan of Duke. I just really don't like it, to be honest with you. They get on my nerves. I really do hate the team. And so I'm sitting here, and when I go to get my topics for the pod, I watch other podcasts. I go through social media. I see what people are talking about. And so there's a few sports outlets that I see a certain celebrity being talked about, and I just don't understand the love or the attention that we as a society give celebrity relationships. Like, to me, make it make sense for me. Like, what does this person cheating on their partner, or this football player sleeping with this person's wife, what does that mean to you? Like, why do we care? Like, and I just genuinely do not understand. And when I started my original He Say, She Say podcast, I remember I always said I never wanted to talk about gossip. So I remember when I was looking through co-hosts after my original co-host left, I remember my homegirl, she always wanted to talk about gossip stuff. And I'm like, I just don't understand why we as a society care that much. I need that question answered for me, like, at the end of the day. Because, like, I know me, like, sometimes there's certain situations that happen, and I would bring it up on the podcast, but I would never bring it up to where you would only know who I was talking about if you knew about the situation. But I would more so use them as examples because there's some things that can be talking points, things to learn from, things to analyze and try to apply to your life. But then there's some stuff that's just messy. It's like, who cares? Like at the end of the day, like what does that got to do? That don't pay your rent, your bills. Why is that entertaining to you? And it's like some stuff is just foolishness and shouldn't be celebrated. And so I had to get up out of here, y'all. I appreciate you all for watching. Like I said before, make sure you go subscribe on YouTube, Juke Network, JUK Network, or look for Joint Universal Creatives as well. Like the He Say, She Say channel, I am in the process of revamping and I'm most likely going to end up creating a new page for that. But for now, like the He Say, She Say channel for all updates and news and clips. Go on Juke Sports Show. Follow us on Instagram, as well as following me at KYNG RALPH on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, add an underscore for X or Twitter. And I got to get up out of here, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Dang, sucks to say I can't say love, peace, and the Aces 3-peat no more. But I appreciate y'all for watching.